The Aquarius solar eclipse is here to disrupt life as we know it. And this lunation is going to shock you. And shock everyone at that. This is a solar eclipse in the sign Aquarius, the sign of humanity, the collective, groups, teams. And this Aquarius solar eclipse is a lightning strike with effects that will reverberate out until 2028. This eclipse is the first of its kind in the Aquarius-Leo axis, and thus it operates as a foreshadow, foreshadowing where fate and destiny is launching us forward, ready or not. And you can receive in February 2026 flashes of the future, flashes of awareness of a timeline that you are lining into, and it may catch you by surprise. In fact, the events surrounding the solar eclipse are pretty certain to catch you by surprise as the solar eclipse squares Uranus, the planet of the unexpected. This solar eclipse does ask us to detach a bit, to let go of what we thought the future was going to be in order to embrace what it is. This solar eclipse is just one of the reasons why February 2026 is a pretty bonkers month. Within the span of a couple of days, the traditional ruler of this eclipse will align with Neptune. There will be a dedicated all signs video on that particular conjunction coming up on my channel shortly, so make sure to subscribe to deep dive into that. But it is relevant with this particular eclipse since this eclipse answers to Saturn aligning with Neptune. And Neptune as a planet is around dissolving. It is around disillusioning. And so there may be an awareness in February 2026, the need to let go of how you thought things were going to be in order to surrender to how they are now and to not resist what is happening. Because this particular eclipse may feel very uncomfortable, but it's very important with this being a bit of a time capsule of the upcoming North Node Aquarius, South Node and Leo transit to let head win out over heart, to let the we triumph over the me, to let logic prevail above emotion, to look at what is transpiring and ask, is that so? As well as to band together with groups, communities, like-minded souls in order to enact change. But to be very forthright when it comes to the energy of this new moon, change is enacting us. So to speak, change is being thrust upon us with this solar eclipse in Aquarius. So the more that you cling to the old way of doing things or what your life used to look like or what you thought it was going to be, the more likely you are to get electrocuted by the solar eclipse in Aquarius squaring Uranus. You gotta let it go. You gotta detach. You gotta let this new timeline come into fruition. You need to let your new life click into place, as well as to recognize the flashes of insights and ideas that signal where your path will take you next. Because one thing's for sure, with the Aquarius solar eclipse, you are stepping into a brand new reality. And I will guide you through the course of this video and the collective implications of this solar eclipse in Aquarius. With this being in the sign of the collective, we will break down do's and don'ts of navigating eclipse season, how it is that you can navigate through this season while keeping your head intact. Yes, this is a challenge with eclipses. I will guide you in a tutorial and how you can find where exactly the solar eclipse lights up your chart, thus the shockwaves that you are likely to feel in February 2026. And then we'll take it into our sign-by-sign, house-by-house analysis to tune into the life changes, the new perspectives, the ahas, the epiphanies that may awaken for you within this upcoming eclipse. And really this upcoming eclipse cycle, because this is a time capsule of what is to come until 2028. So pay attention. And I would imagine since you are here in my cosmic corner of the internet, you are someone who watches the sky, you are someone who tunes into astrology and really lets it illuminate what is showing up within your world. Just in case this is your first time to my cosmic corner of the internet, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Haley Comet. I specialize in co-creative astrology. Eclipse season tends to be a time of a lot of fear and panic. And yes, I will always be forthright with you. This one feels like a bit of a jolt. It feels destabilizing. It feels a bit erratic. But my aim within this video and every video that you'll find on my channel is to leave you when you click off of this video feeling more empowered to navigate where the astrology is showing up for you and even to co-create with where the astrology is showing up for you. I do this within my weekly astrology podcast called Magic Monday, where I break down every single week of astrology, as well as within all sign videos like this, which there are quite a few. coming up, so make sure to subscribe. I've got Saturn conjunct Neptune dropping on my channel next Friday, and then the Virgo lunar eclipse all signs video dropping on my channel the following week. I've always got you covered when there's a massive transit showing up around collective analysis as well as house by house where it is showing up for you. So if at any point within this video I earn your like, your subscription, your comment, that would be so appreciated. But without further ado, let's take it into the Aquarius Solar Eclipse, February 17th, 2026, a brand new world. The Aquarius solar eclipse exacts on February 17th, 2026 at 4:01 a.m. PST, though its effects are not limited to that particular date and time. Aftershocks of eclipses tend to reverberate out for the next 6 months, and even when we look at this particular eclipse being a time capsule of the work to come until 2028, it is signaling a story that is so much bigger than this particular date or even just this particular month. We are going to break down the mechanics. Aquarius is a very logical sign. Let's break down the equation of this particular eclipse. So firstly, it is a solar eclipse. That means it is an eclipse on the new moon. Lunar eclipses tend to be a little bit more personal. Solar eclipses are more collective altogether. And it also signals a new start when it is a solar eclipse. Ready or not, we are being launched forward. And I do mean forward, because the other component that we take into account when setting up an eclipse is if it's on the north node or the south node. This eclipse is on the north node. North node signals gain, growth, forward, momentum, and motion. So it is truly a new beginning. It's a bit of a new beginning on steroids, so to speak. And it is a bridge, so to speak. So while we are getting glimpses, visions of new timelines, new ways of doing things, new opportunities, we are still 1 foot in the old world, or at least the old work that we've been doing. Because even though the solar eclipse is aligned with the north node, they are in different signs. This eclipse lands at 28 degrees Aquarius. The north node is in Pisces. North node has been transiting Pisces since the beginning of 2025, though we got kind of a time capsule foreshadow of that story in September 2024. So there can be remnants of what has gotten you up to this point as you are launched forward, or at least 1 foot in your old world, 1 foot in your new world, or maybe even operating life as you know it and getting glimpses, visions around how things are going to change. It's important around the solar eclipse to let yourself be surprised. The solar eclipse squares Uranus. Be surprised by what future is calling you, where fate is pulling you, and the divine is pulling you. There's a need at this time to let go of how you thought it was going to be in order to embrace how it is and where it's going, really. Aquarius, as I highlighted, is a very logical sign, so it does ask us to seek a higher perspective, and at times a logical perspective. It's going to be important around this eclipse, though we'll get more into it in do's and don'ts, not to allow your entire foundation to be rocked by what is transpiring. It may be important to chisel a bit of a stoic mindset around looking at what is coming up and looking at it around, is that so? Or even striving with the energy in Aquarius and with this right Uranus to somewhat delight in the absurdity of it all. I would have never envisioned that this is where life would take me, or that this particular opportunity would come up. Life is so weird sometimes. You know, Uranus energy can be massive lightning strikes and awakenings and shocking news and events, but sometimes Uranus and Aquarius energy is just random. There could be things that come your way this eclipse where it's just like random and it's not what you thought it was going to be. But there's an ask to let go of whatever you thought it was going to be. With this solar eclipse answering to Saturn in traditional rulership, that is, who is aligned with Neptune at this time, there may be a sense of disillusionment that is alive within the collective. This is not how I was told it was going to be. This is not how it was sold to me. Neptune energy can be a dream energy, and with Saturn energy, there is a crash landing down to reality around, I thought it was going to be this, but it's actually this. They told me it was going to be this, but it's actually this. And that delusion disillusionment can be disappointing. You can be looking at what your life looks like, what society looks like, and looking at it around. This is not what it was meant to be. This is not the dream that I was sold. And that's where it's important with the energy of Aquarius to detach, because something about dreams altogether, where it's a personal vision around my life is going to be like this, is that we tend to get very emotional about it. You know, our emotions are tied in around this is going to fix everything. And once I do A, B, and C, then it's going to lead to this. But the energy of Aquarius and the upcoming North Node Aquarius energy asks us to take a more logical perspective to it around striving wherever possible to take theatrics out of it, dramatics out of it, with South Node soon to enter Leo, in order to just accept what it is, especially with the traditional ruler on Neptune. Neptune can be around surrender, around it's not what I thought it was going to be. Let me just surrender to how it is and surrender to this particular moment, which is not me saying that we need to be complacent at this time. This can be a really powerful time around teamwork, collective banding together in order to fight for the visions that we believe in with Saturn on Neptune. There could be a disillusionment or dissolving even of authority or structure. It's important to know Saturn is not well placed in Aries whatsoever. And with Neptune there could be certain dissolving around certain structures as we know it. And it doesn't ask us to be complacent with the energy of Aries. It can ask us to advocate. But in order to advocate, it requires us to accept this present moment and to let go of how we thought it was going to be. The more we're like, it's not supposed to be like this, it's supposed to be how it used to be, the more we are taking a step backwards. Like the more that you can accept that there's no going backwards and there's only moving forwards, the better off you'll be this eclipse season. It's not about regressing. It is about evolving. So it's going to be important to be like, it's not how I thought it was going to be. Let me find the opportunity to make it even better. You know, a lot of times when we tap into future timelines or even just the knowledge around this eclipse that a lot of things can change, it can fill us with a lot of doom because admittedly, change could be very messy. We as human beings do not like uncertainty, but there's no use holding on to an old paradigm when this eclipse is truly ushering us into a new way of doing things. And so it's going to be important not to resist what is transpiring and to just surrender to this particular moment, because that's where it is that we see opportunities to make a difference, to make a change. Though with this being an eclipse, oftentimes the difference makes us. The change makes us. And what I mean by that is that typically with eclipses, changes are thrust upon us. So I'm not adding more to your plate around, yeah, it's super important to make all of these changes and fight for this and that. You know, with eclipses, it's a new story that is showing up. And a lot of times with eclipses, I typically advise being a little bit more reflective around what is transpiring. I think particularly with this eclipse, with the square to Uranus, it's going to be important to not do things impulsively, but just to see what changes are coming about. That could be coming outside of you. Things outside of you are changing. Structures as you knew it is crumbling. Or you could even just get certain flashes of insight around future timelines that you are calling in, but that are also calling you. Because this eclipse in Aquarius straddles North Node in Pisces. North Node in Pisces is very spiritual. It's where it is that we feel led and called. Because a lot of times where it is that we feel divinely led and called, it's bigger than us. And that's why it is that we're so magnetized and pulled in that direction. Because the universe is essentially using us in order to help people, in order to make a difference. That is the crux of this solar eclipse in Aquarius. It is bigger than me. And oftentimes our talents and our abilities can be put towards something that is bigger than us. But it's just going to be important with this being a solar eclipse in Aquarius to really think in terms of the we, the collective, the friends, the groups, the teams, as well as humanity all together. And the future that we all share, which a lot of people can feel very jaded about at this particular moment. With the ruler of this eclipse aligned with Neptune, there could be an element around, I don't want to fight for future generations. I don't want to fight for this or that change. I'm burnt out. I'm jaded. I'm disillusioned. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be. It's not how it was supposed to be. And around this particular solar eclipse, it is important to recognize where it is that your talents, your abilities are being pulled towards something bigger than yourself, and to strive to, wherever possible, look towards the future with hope. to my side, I'm burning the star candle, which is the tarot card that is associated with Aquarius. It is indicative of hope, of renewal, of healing, of the future often, and looking towards the future with some semblance of optimism around even in the darkest night, we can follow the light of the star, follow our own North Star. And within tarot, star comes after tower. Some people could feel like they're in a tower moment, or we can even feel like society is in a tower moment where things are crumbling. Life as we knew it is crumbling. And it's going to be important even in the messiness of old structures dissolving with Saturn on Neptune, even with the changes that are coming about this month. It's going to be important to follow your star even amidst it, even amidst the messiness or the crumbling. It's going to be important to have hope and renewal, not just for yourself, but for others. It's for the future generations. It's for the people around you. It's for your friends. It's for your mutuals on social media. Like, it's bigger than us. Because sometimes when we plug into that around it's bigger than me, that gives us the hope in order to keep going. Sometimes that reminds us what it is that we're fighting for. And even to a very personal level, there could be an element around feeling disillusioned around how things have transpired. And Neptune energy can make us feel a little like, what's the point altogether? But following your star, having the courage and really the rebelliousness with the solar eclipse squaring Uranus to look towards the future with optimism and to keep following your North Star. Because oftentimes what it is that we're being pulled towards, what our calling is, it's meant to impact many other humans. We can feel sometimes like we are just shining our light in the darkness, and you never know who's looking to you as a source of inspiration, who's looking to you as a source of hope, where it is that you are a testament that reminds people to keep going. And so it can be impactful at this time, even if you do feel disillusioned and jaded with the ways that things are, even if there are changes that you're just like, WTF universe. It's important to know that you are part of something bigger than you, and where it is that your soul is pulling you, it may be very purposeful in order to help the collective in some way. I believe that not one person on this planet is here coincidentally or accidentally. And I'm also of the belief that we did choose our birth chart. We did choose what particular time we wanted to incarnate. And all of us chose to be here while Pluto is in Aquarius. And this particular eclipse could give you glimpses and hints around why that is. And some of you may be shook. Like, some of you around this eclipse, you may feel pulled to something. You may get a vision, a flash of something that has you fundamentally shook around, I'm going to do what? Or I feel inclined to do this. And it could be a disruption. Some of you, there could be a shakeup in relation to how it is that you earn an income, or how it is that you show up within your community, or something like this, where this is not how you thought it was going to be. With Neptune on Saturn, there could be an element around, I played by the rules. I did all of the right things. I did things in a very linear fashion. And now I'm feeling inclined to do something totally different, something very random, something that's very much a disruption to what I used to do. And for some, that could be the destabilizing part. Because the Saturn-Neptune alignment is in Aries, which is a sign of identity. And so sometimes when we get certain glimpses or visions or a certain nudge from spirit around where our path is taking us, sometimes where we cling to the old world is around, well, no, I'm, Amanda, the accountant. I'm Zach, the zookeeper. I know I'm feeling this nudge where I'm wanting this career pivot, or I'm wanting to change, or I'm wanting to move, but so much of my identity was crystallized around this. And then there could be an element around letting go of who you thought you had to be in order to embrace who you are. Weirdness and all. Aquarius is the sign of the eccentric. And with the square to Uranus, there just could be a lightning bolt to your soul that just makes you no longer want to pretend. With Neptune on Saturn, dissolving who you felt like you had to be in society, or maybe even certain pressure to maintain a status quo in certain way. With the energy of Neptune, it's like, what's the point? Let my freak flag fly. With the energy of the solar eclipse. And as I noted, there will be a deep dive into that Saturn-Neptune alignment because it's fascinating in and of itself. But it's just important to mention that it is part of the tapestry of this particular eclipse. And there is an element around being launched forward while still having one foot in the past, just with the North Node in Pisces, which we discussed. Another foot in the past that is encapsulated within this eclipse is that this eclipse squares Uranus in Taurus, which is a journey that all of us have been in since 2018. And it's a cycle that is closing in just a few months. And it might be helpful to contemplate what within your life has been disrupted since 2018. And in addition to Uranus entering Taurus in 2018 and that being alive with this eclipse, the last time we had an eclipse at around these degrees, I believe it was 1 degree away, was February 15th. 2018, we had a solar eclipse in Aquarius. Now the nodes were flipped. The North Node was in Leo. The South Node was in Aquarius. Now we're being foreshadowed to a story with North Node in Aquarius, South Node in Leo. But even contemplating what could have been seeded within 2018 may be relevant, or with Uranus wrapping up its story that started in 2018, just honoring the change that could have transpired since then. And with Uranus and Taurus, Taurus speaks to food, it speaks to goods, it speaks to possessions, much of which has been very up and down since Uranus has entered Taurus. And Taurus ultimately wants to feel secure. And there can be a sensation with this particular eclipse around not feeling safe, not feeling secure. Whatever the unexpected news is, or whatever occurrence that transpires, it could rock your nervous system so much so that you do not feel safe. And it's going to be important to have your grounding rituals, to have what it is that you need in order to anchor in around I am safe, I am taken care of. And of course, within humanity, a huge token or symbol of security and stability in this experience is money. And with the solar eclipse square Uranus, there can be certain financial news or happenings at this time that make us feel very unsafe, that make us feel like the rug is pulled out from under us, whether this is news within the stock market, whether this is price changes as it relates to goods, as it relates to food, whether it's something within our life, some sort of unexpected expense. When that sort of news comes in, a lot of times it pulls in our overall sense of safety, because it is something that we require to safely and securely navigate through the world. But it's going to be important, with the ruler of this eclipse being Saturn in Aries, to take things moment to moment, as well as to ground down around right now, I have what it is that I need. Let me take this moment by moment. Let me focus on finding my footing. Let me focus on soothing my nervous system. Because even if something is not literally the difference between you having food on the table and not, oftentimes it can threaten our overall sense of security and stability, where we do not feel safe. And that can cause us to react in ways that are very chaotic, which is really the encouragement not to do this particular eclipse. It's going to be important to really ground yourself if there is any sort of unexpected news, as well as continue to affirm, I am safe, I am taken care of, I have what it is that I need today, and I trust that I will have what it is that I need tomorrow. Taking things moment by moment is really key as it relates to any sort of surprise that the universe throws your way that you're not particularly keen on. I do want to widen our understanding of Uranus and say it doesn't necessarily need to be bad surprises. Maybe this is an energy around having your best sales day within your business and having to regulate your nervous system in order to allow that to be the new normal, or to feel safe holding that sort of money. Maybe you get an idea of something drastically different than what you've been doing that can make a financial impact within your life, within many others' lives. It's just going to be important that regardless if it's good change or bad change, a lot of times when it comes to our physical vessel, we can deem all change as unsafe. So it's going to be important to really integrate and ground what is showing up within this particular eclipse, as well as contemplating what the transit of Uranus and Taurus has been about within your life, which of course we'll unpack within our all signs analysis. I also want to add here that money talks. And money talks quite loudly when it comes to what sort of future that you want to build, the sort of companies, corporations, small businesses, visionaries that align with your values as well as your view of the future. And the reason I say this is with the Aquarius solar eclipse squaring Uranus and Taurus, there also could be epiphanies, awakenings, ahas around the future that you are voting for with your dollar, whether that is where you invest it, as well as where you deprive your resources of. There can be strikes, protests, or even just a recognition of what you want to put your resources towards and what you don't want to put your resources towards. And knowing that leveraging cash flow and where it goes can be a way to disrupt the status quo, can be a way to communicate the future that you believe in and the future that you are wanting to build. And the other dynamic I want to pull in about Uranus and Taurus, outside of money and food, Taurus also brings up themes around values. And the Aquarius Solar Eclipse does ask who your people are. And what I mean by that, individuals who are like-minded, like-souled, like-hearted. I do feel like at this time it's going to be important to have your people. You know, we can all operate as stars in one another's galaxy, right? Where we might be doing our own thing, shining our own light, march to the beat of our own drum, all on our own wavelength, but our very existence and our light that we illuminate oftentimes can inspire other people within our galaxy. And so the energy of the solar eclipse in Aquarius could really ask, who are the people that are in your galaxy, so to speak, whether that's friends, whether that's clubs, whether that's teams, whether that's social circles. What do you feel like you are a part of? Because again, this can help as it relates to hope, where we all have days that we feel disillusioned and jaded. And what's the point? You know, that could be really alive with Saturn on Neptune, but oftentimes your people is what keeps you going. And there can be a focus on that coming in. But with the square to Uranus, there also could be certain disruptions or fractures around values, like value differences, around I can't be a friend to you if these are your values. Now on the higher octave of this can be, these are my people, this is my group, these are my friends, because our values are this. And maybe this Aquarius solar eclipse brings new friends into your orbit, new people within your orbit, even in a shocking or surprising sort of way. And eclipses are never the time that I would say to force action or that you need to click something into alignment. But I do feel like there can be an aha, an epiphany that is placed on many people's hearts and minds at this time around wanting to be online, genuinely, around wanting to build a community, wanting to build a collective, wanting to band individuals together in some regard. With the square to Uranus, there can be an element around perhaps feeling misunderstood by many people within your orbit now, and really wanting to call in individuals who are on the same wavelength as you. You know, Aquarius is that popular loner archetype where it is the sign of humanity, but oftentimes there is an energy around feeling different than other individuals. That's because it is the sign of the future. And in order to create the future, there has to be a subtle detangling from the present or the status quo of the now in order to build where things are going, which sometimes can lead Aquarius placements to feel out of step with the current iteration of humanity. Typically, the vibe that Aquarius is on will be popular in years to come. And it's really special when you yourself, in the ways that you felt misunderstood or the ways that you felt judged, it's special when you're able to call in a collective or a community being able to shine out those qualities that were deemed as weird, strange, bizarre. Some could feel called to create a collective of other fellow eccentrics or rebels in some sort of way, and maybe recognizing it's bigger than you. You know, South Node will enter Leo, and the shadow side of any sign gets brought to the surface when South Node transits through it, and the shadow side of Leo can be ego and pride. So there's an element around holding yourself back from things, around what are people going to think about me? The energy of this is solar eclipse in Aquarius is around, it's about the we. And if there is individuals who I can inspire and bring hope to just by me shining my light, it's bigger than me. And I need to get out of my own way around making it about me. That may be a theme that comes up for some, but altogether, when we break down all of the mechanics of this Aquarius solar eclipse, it is about launching forward towards different dreams, letting go of old dreams, especially if they feel disillusioned, especially if you feel jaded around it was not meant to be this way. Where is it that we can surrender to how things are in order to build all together as a group, as a community, as all of humanity, honoring our own unique authenticity, honoring our eccentricity, and really allowing ourselves to ground into the new normal. And there's an ask to let go of how you thought it was going to be. Embrace how it is now as we build what it's going to be. these are the do's and don'ts this eclipse season. Though I realize that me saying what not to do may have many of you wanting to do exactly that. This is a solar eclipse in the sign of the rebel squaring Uranus, a very rebellious influence as well. So some of you could be tempted to do the opposite, but these would be the rules that I would encourage you to follow this particular eclipse season. Do find your footing. What I mean by that is find what makes you feel safe and stable, even if things around you feel like anything but. It's important to know during this eclipse, we have very little Earth in the cosmos. We just basically have Uranus in Taurus, which is hardly the most stabilizing influence ever. And we have a lot of air energies at this particular time, which can put us very much in our head. And it's important to root down into your body and to do things that make you feel safe, to find your footing, to be here now, to ground and to soothe your nervous system is going to be key. Because some of the changes that can be coming your way can make you feel not safe. Even if they are somewhat minor, there could be certain things that come your way that just make you feel like everything's gone topsy-turvy. And what's going to be important is to find your footing. Breathing exercises, yoga, movement, time in nature is going to be medicinal at this time in order to be here now and in order to take one step at a time, not get too far ahead of yourself. Don't panic, freak out, or make impulsive decisions at this time. With the square to Uranus, for some, this could be an energy around wanting to rebel. There's a final request that your boss makes of you that you're just like, F this, I'm out. And if that's your story, I'm not holding you back. Maybe it was the final straw and Neptune on Saturn really just dissolved what authority is. But it's my encouragement not to take impulsive actions at this time. Let things settle. Strive not to make decisions from a very emotional place. And fear is an emotion as well. A lot of times during eclipses, it is charged with this now or never energy where you could feel like I need to quit now or mouth off to my boss now or else I never will. And it's going to be important to come back to logic with the energy of Aquarius Solar Eclipse around how is it that I can intelligently make the change that I am meant to without feeling like I need to react in the heat of the moment. With South Node soon to enter Leo, it's going to be important to resist theatrics or dramatics or standing up for ourselves out of this energy of pride or ego around how dare they say that to me? I'm on your side. How dare they say that to you? But it's just going to be important not to react in the heat of the moment. Do write down what transpires. It's considered the first opening eclipse in a nodal axis, hints where the story is going. And little things that you could brush off at this time may be very instrumental. It's a bit like watching a TV show where there's little Easter eggs or little clues. Sometimes you miss it, but then by the season finale, you're like, wait, wasn't that hinted at here? Or they had this particular line. So I would encourage you to write, to journal, to take photos. Just remember what is transpiring. Sometimes eclipses come in like a wrecking ball, and sometimes they come in like a butterfly. In that they're a little bit more subtle and letting go of whatever grip of how you think things are going to transpire. We will get into the life arenas that will be shaken up with this eclipse, but with the square to Uranus, whatever you think exactly is going to happen, it's likely going to surprise you what transpires. You can have a particular idea how this eclipse is going to take shape and form, and you may be surprised by how it does. And so it's important to even let go of what you think it will be, because if you watch a TV show and you're so like, oh, it's this person who did it, your brain will scan out all of the other data or clues around, oh, it could be this person or this person, because when you have your mind made up around it's going to be this, you're not scouting or scouring for other hints and clues that can be helpful. And it might be important with this Aquarius energy to remain objective around what's showing up for you and to tune into all of the hints and clues that are emerging at this time. Don't isolate. At least that would be my encouragement. And the temptation at this time is going to be to want to isolate. Listen, the collective gets dialed up around eclipses. People could be acting a little bonkers. People could be acting a little wild. I would really encourage you to invest energy in your people, even if it's just a group chat, just laughing about how bizarre everything is and just how wacky everything feels, or having certain astrology clubs or groups that you can go to around, wow, these eclipse seasons are a little wild, or nourishing certain friendships. It may be helpful at this time to have your people. And even if you need some space, it just needs needs to show up digitally or what have you, it may be helpful to either lean on your people or be open to your people. Like I said, some people could make a new friend, and it's important to be open to connection. You know, sometimes if we feel like we're going to move in 6 months, we're like, I don't want to make any friends because why would I put down roots here if I'm going to move, when the universe could be trying to bless us in the form of different people coming into our orbit. So while it could be tempting at this time to isolate because it can feel like the world has gone a little mad, it can be very helpful at this time. And even just being around people that you can like co-regulate with can be really impactful. So if the news gets a little wild, having craft nights, like having people around where things might feel intense, change may be looming in the air, but Aquarius energy can really support a sense of amusement or absurdity around how wacky it all is. Do find ways to help your fellow humans. Aquarius energy is about remembering that we're all in this together. And a lot of times we can be so absorbed by the me that we forget about the we of it all. And a lot of individuals can be feeling really hopeless at this time with Saturn on Neptune. And you could be the star in their galaxy, a source of hope and inspiration, even like illuminating or shining out what you were made to feel weird for or different for. Maybe you could make people feel seen within it or bring inspiration or hope to other people's lives. It's also said that one of the best things that we could do for our mental health is volunteering, is helping other humans on whichever level that we feel so inspired to do so. It's truly one of the best things to do because not only are you helping others, but it tends to bring you into a state of gratitude. It makes you feel like you are making a difference. You know, there can be an energy that some people can be feeling around, you know, what's the point? But when you are volunteering at a soup kitchen, when you are organizing clothing drives and giving it to individuals who need it, we find that purpose is not something we search for. It's something that we have. Like sometimes your purpose is smiling at that person who has not felt seen all day, or providing this person a sweater that they wouldn't have been able to have, or providing this person a warm meal. You know, purpose doesn't need to show up in these huge ways. It's just woven within our daily life. And so the more that we can strive around whose life can I uplift today, where can I make a difference today, the more that you yourself can feel in a more uplifted space while also supporting other humans. Don't manifest. And again, this is, in my opinion, based on my study of traditional astrology. It would not be my encouragement to manifest or to do any sort of ritual around this new moon. Now, if it is part of your belief system, it is part of your culture, if it is part of your practice, by all means, feel free. This is just my encouragement. If any of you are plugging into this eclipse and you're like, wow, it feels so powerful. Do I need to manifest in order to boost its effects? Trust me, the eclipse will do what the eclipse needs to do. You don't need to get involved. The reason I say this is that eclipses tend to be very volatile, especially this eclipse with its square to Uranus. It's considered that eclipses are very fated. During other new moons, we ask for what it is that we want from the universe. And during eclipses, the universe shows us what it wants for us, which I do have to be forthright. Sometimes eclipse events are very positive, sometimes they are more negative, but what they all have in common is that they are meant to be this way. So even if this eclipse has certain events that transpire that feel negative, that feel bad, it's important to trust that things will make sense in time. Especially with this being the first eclipse in this new nodal cycle, it's important to let the universe cook, where this could be exactly what was necessary in order to get you away from a certain timeline that you are no longer meant to be on anymore. This may be the change that is necessary in order to pull you to a new path. And so it's important to trust in the universe and not feel like you have to get involved or interfere around manifesting or seeking to control the outcome. Because honestly, eclipses are very intense and it may have unintended effects than what you meant to transpire. So proceed with caution when it comes to any sort of ritual around this eclipse. Not every eclipse is built the same. And there are certain individuals with certain charts who will be jolted a little bit more by this particular eclipse than other eclipses or even other eclipse cycles altogether. You know, a solar eclipse is a foreshadow, and I will say as a foreshadow for all my fixed loves, my Tauruses, my Leos, my Scorpios, my Aquariuses, this eclipse axis is going to be more significant for you. Now, as a nearing conclusion, I will let my mutables know. That's my Geminis, my Virgos, my Sagittarians, my Pisces. The North Node Pisces, South Node Virgo story that is coming to a close in the near future was more impactful and oftentimes more disruptive for you. Now, this particular eclipse is going to be the most impactful if you have personal placements. That is Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, or Mars, or a personal angle, ascendant IC, descendant midheaven, between 23 to 29 degrees fixed, so that is Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, or Aquarius, or if you have 0 to 2 degrees mutable, that is Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, or Pisces. You're not quite off the hook yet. Soon, but not quite. That's because this eclipse lands at 28 degrees Aquarius. So if you have late fixed placements or early mutable placements, that means that this eclipse will form a harsh aspect to your chart and thus disrupt things a little bit more, for better and for worse. And what's going to be important to train your brain to remember is that whatever is being changed at this time is being changed purposefully. Again, our mind could seek to deem things as good or bad. It's going to be important this time to just be like, it just is. And oftentimes with eclipses, it really is setting you up for either something better or for alignment to click into place. So it's going to be important to let things be at this time and know that your eclipse story may be a bit more shocking than other individuals with other charts. But we all have an eclipse story. Even if you don't have any placements between those degrees that I mentioned, every single one of us has an eclipse story. So let's illuminate how you can figure out what your eclipse story is. So there are 2 ways to proceed with the rest of this video. The first is my encouragement if you are newer to astrology or if you use whole sign house system. How I would encourage you to proceed or to find your individual reading is you will go to the description and you will find your rising sign, also known as your ascendant sign, and you will advance to that particular reading. If you use Placidus house system, I will guide you in a tutorial of how you can figure out which house this particular eclipse lands in for you. It may be the same as what's listed by your rising sign. It may be different, but here's how you can find it. So I'm going to guide you through this tutorial using astro.com. You will input your birth information and you will get a circle chart like this. From here, you'll want to find the Aquarius territory of your chart. I'm circling it on screen. And so this eclipse lands at 28 degrees Aquarius. So how I would advise you to find where in your chart this lands is find the Pisces glyph that borders Aquarius. I'm circling it on screen. It looks like an H. If you find the line between the Aquarius glyph and the Pisces glyph, this represents 0 degrees Pisces. If you go back a little bit into the Aquarius territory, right around here will be 28 degrees. Each sign wraps up at 29 degrees, so you know right around that zone that Aquarius ends and Pisces begins is where this particular eclipse will land. From there, you'll go to the piece of pizza that encases that particular zone. We see within Inner Planet Janet here, this eclipse lands within the 6th house. So Inner Planet Janet would advance to the 6th house timestamp. If you are not certain where exactly, you're like, Haley Comet, it might be the 5th house, it might be the 6th house, you can click on PDF, additional tables, and to the right-hand side, there will be a table that lists where every house begins. So let's say you're not sure if it's in the 5th house or the 6th house. You can see here the 6th house begins at 25 degrees. So we know with certainty this solar eclipse must land in the 6th house, as 28 degrees Aquarius comes after 25 degrees Aquarius. So now that you figured out which house this lands in, let's get into the changes that can be expected within that particular territory. If the Aquarius solar eclipse lands within the 1st house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. You may be an Aquarius ascendant. You may just have 28 degrees Aquarius in your 1st house. Either way, this is a massive eclipse for you. And it's massive because of the new sides of yourself that you are being initiated to embody. you may have certain changes that transpire at this time that radicalize how it is that you have seen yourself, and that really usher you into a new paradigm with you leading as the main character. As I've stated, this eclipse is very much about letting go of what we thought it was going to be in order to embrace what it is and where it's going. And you may be guided this time to let go of who you thought that you were in order to embrace who it is that you are becoming, even if parts of that feel destabilizing, even if parts of that are a disruption from who your family thought that you should be. This eclipse squares Uranus, which is in your 4th house. So some of you could be stepping into the fullness of who it is that you are and defying convention of who you thought you had to be. Even if there were expectations that were not explicitly said, they could have been felt. And this may be a time that you are really owning who it is that you are. Some of you could be having certain uncomfortable conversations with family that are dissolving their idea of who you are or who you should be. You know, Saturn on Neptune in Aries being the ruler of this eclipse just feels like the sort of energy around bursting a bubble. You know, and sometimes people will idealize us. They will build us up to be something that we are not. And this could be an energy around, I'm not who you thought that I am. Or that's not my dream, Dad. That's your dream. You know, the classic trope in all of the movies. There can be an element like that. Some of you could have certain opportunities that click into place around this time where you move. Some of you may have to choose yourself. Maybe you are choosing yourself as it relates to a certain partnership or relationship that you've been in. Maybe you get a certain opportunity that requires you to move, and you have to choose yourself and also who it is that you're becoming rather than the comfort zones that you have known before. And there also can be an awareness around the new sides of self that you are fully stepping into. And that the more that you step into yourself, the more that you help to guide, lead, and inspire other humans that can look to you as an inspiration. With this being a foreshadow of the upcoming North Node in your 1st house transit, this could be a time that you are being more visible. And it helps to be more visible when you feel like you are making a difference, when you feel like you are guiding the way. Some of you could even get some sort of idea of something that feels very random, but maybe very beneficial for humanity, like Aquarius energy, Uranus energy. This is thinking outside of the box sort of energy. Some of you could even be seeking out land or property or stepping into something new in some sort of way. I would definitely advise during this time, emotional regulation is key. Because even if it's not you deciding to move away from family or to move from a city that you've known or to choose yourself and be open to a move, even if it has nothing to do with your home and your land and your property, this could be an energy around feeling very volatile emotionally or feeling very electric emotionally. And in order for you to step into the leader that you are, it's going to be important to regulate yourself. And you may be saying, well, Haley Comet, I'm Aquarius rising. I'm typically pretty cool, calm, and collected. You know, also being avoidant or detaching or running when things get hard, like that's also an emotional response. So it may be impactful at this time to really notice what comes up for you and where it is that you can find your footing amidst it and make yourself feel safe amidst it. Because for some, you could be stepping into different sides of yourself that make you feel very uncomfortable. And parts of that could be your programming, your ancestral programming, your generational programming around, I'm the first in my lineage who was able to do this. I'm the first in my lineage who is able to be fully who it is that I am. Of course, it's uncharted territory as it relates to our DNA, as it relates to our bloodline. So it's going to be important to find security by way of your own footing, by way of feeling safe around owning all that you are. Because a lot of times there will be certain like warnings that are programmed into us because we are going where nobody within our lineage was able to go before. So it'll feel unsafe to own who it is that you are. It'll feel unsafe to choose to fly solo for a while. It'll feel unsafe to even be visible if we've had certain generations where it was not safe to be seen fully. To be seen meant to be persecuted, meant to be judged. And for some of you, it can be really important, just especially with the changes that are coming your way until 2028, because this is a massive new cycle that you're stepping into. It's going to be important to widen your understanding of the new normal, as well as to really see what is being driven by fear, and to see what certain stops are alive because of fear. Again, from ancestry, from even like our past lives, things like this, in order to soothe ourselves, to tune into, this is not coming from my most empowered self or where the universe wants me to guide forward. This is coming from my family lineage, where nobody else was able to be on their own for some time, was able to be solo, to be in a relationship meant to be safe. Maybe because of my ancestry, no one was allowed to be out as it relates to their sexuality. Maybe to be out meant to be judged and persecuted. So my family line had to hide who it is that they are, but I don't. That's what I want to really key in, is sometimes we have these certain stops in place from our family, from expectations, or even just like ancestral bloodline themes that are meant to be broken. Like, you are an Aquarius. This is innovator energy. And if we always go based on what feels safe or secure, we lose out on the opportunity to step in the fullness of who it is that we are, as well as to disrupt what even stability or security means. The idea of stability and security is changing so much within this new paradigm, where before it could have felt ultimately safe and secure to be in a relationship. It could have been safe and secure to live by the status quo. It could have felt safe and secure to buy a home, to work a 9 to 5. But we are living in a paradigm in which a lot of what we deem as stability and security is an illusion. You know, Saturn is by Neptune. The prescribed path in many times was seen as the safer path, but in all actuality, in this new paradigm, it is a very dangerous path to walk, is walking a path that is not authentically your own. And so it's going to be important to ensure that you're making decisions for yourself, not based on what feels like it's most secure path or the most stable path or what's the family approved path or what other people within your ancestry did. Ensure that it's your path. And South Node will enter your 7th house later on this year. And first house, as I highlighted, has a lot to do with self. And so it's important that you are making decisions for you, that you are not staying in a relationship for the wrong reasons, so that you are not looking out for a relationship based on certain outdated standards of who your family will approve of, or even you trying to solve family stuff by replaying certain dynamics. If you are at a fork in the road at this time around choosing yourself or choosing someone else, you are being guided to choose yourself. And it's fascinating what transpires when you choose yourself. When you choose yourself genuinely, your most authentic, embodied self, the right things choose you. Maybe for some of you, there is a certain fracture as it relates to family member at this time. Maybe you are distancing yourself from somewhere that you used to live, but you are really being guided by your higher self. And it is pulling you to a beautiful timeline, to an aligned timeline. When we stay in environments and timelines where we have to hide certain elements of ourself, we have a lukewarm, unsatisfactory experience. Because how can we have things that are a whole body, full-hearted, full-souled yes if we are not even saying yes to ourselves within our fullness? Like, it starts with saying yes to you and all that you are. This can bring up themes around your physical body, can bring up themes around your style. Some of you could be shaking up your style even in ways that your family does not approve of. Even if you are in a relationship and it's healthy and it allows you to be all that you are, you could find that you're in a time of life that you are a little bit more rebellious, where you're really wanting to own all that you are. Some of you could be really wanting to try new things, and the right partnerships will grow with you. It's just that this upcoming nodal cycle is going to make it very clear which partnerships are really for you, which can meet and match your frequency as you embody all that you are. Ones that are not for you will fall away. And I don't want that to be scary. You don't want anything within your life that does not allow you to become all that you are, because you are in this enormous cycle of becoming. And so it's going to be important to embrace the novel sides of yourself that you are even connecting to at this time. I feel like some of you might be a little bit rebellious around your domestic labor at this time, or around certain family expectations, where if you're the one who always does the dishes, or you always do this, you might be an energy around, I don't want to do that anymore. Or if you're always the one who fixes everybody else's problems within the family unit, you might be a little bit rebellious at this time, especially if there are certain roles that don't feel like they fit. You know, a lot of you have Pluto also in this territory too. You're in this massive transformative period. at this time. And it's going to be incredibly important to choose who it is that you are becoming rather than who you've been. Because trust me, who it is that you're becoming is incredibly powerful. If the Aquarius solar eclipse lands within the second house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. You may be a Capricorn rising. You may just have 28 degrees Aquarius in your second house. Either way, there may be something being shaken up at this time around your money and your finances, even if that's just the way that you think about your money and your finances. There may be some sort of epiphany or aha around your money and furthermore around your values, what's really valuable to you. Some of you may have felt like you were living in a certain rat race or in a certain paradigm around feeling like you had to keep up, feeling like you had to compete, feeling like you had to flex. And there could be an energy around being awakened to a bigger perspective around what it is that you want to invest in, what it is that you find value within. You even could be shaking up a career path or something like this in order to more authentically align with where your values really are. Some of you could feel inclined at this time to fundraise, to want to make a difference in other people's lives, or to even advocate for things that you feel like need change within the overall world in some sort of way. Some of you may get an idea. You may get an epiphany. You may get an aha, a light bulb moment around something that you want to create. And maybe it's for the purpose of making money, but with the Aquarius energy, it also could be something that really helps humanity altogether. This particular eclipse squares Uranus and Taurus, which is in your 5th house, which does govern what we create. So some of you could have a random out of nowhere idea of something that you are inspired to do, and no pressure to do it around the eclipse. Let the eclipse cook. There just could be like an aha around ways that your art can convey your values or what needs change, or even how your art can make you money, even if that is disruption to the linear path. You know, a lot of you are Capricorn rising, so a lot of you are Saturn ruled. And so maybe you did all the right things. You checked all the boxes. You worked hard at A, B, and C. And there could be an energy around having a different idea that kind of scares you a little bit, or at least destabilizes you. Because it's like, oh, that's a departure from the linear path. And will I even be good at it? Or it's very unique. It would require a lot of courage to walk down that particular path. And that maybe is why you have a different perspective on money. Maybe before you saw money as something to be spent or something that symbolized security, and there might be a disruption and enlightened point of view around finances, or even seeing how money can provide freedom to pursue your hobbies, to pursue what it is that you love to do with Uranus in the 5th house. Maybe there's an energy around being less inclined to spend money on goods and wanting to essentially build a financial reality that allows you to pursue your pleasures, what lights you up. Or you could even be dissolving a linear, predictable path in order to move towards a path that is creative, that is fulfilling. Some of you can experience gain as it relates to finances at this time. Some of you could even get some sort of raise or promotion, or there can be something shocking that transpires financially. And it's going to be important to really hold the vision that everything transpiring at this time is going to set you up for the better. So even if there is some sort of disruption around finances, hold the vision that this is setting you up for the right financial opportunities to click into place. I just feel like some of you could be leading up a cause that is bettering other humans. I do believe when we are in deep alignment with our purpose, and when our purpose is to better other individuals, we do become more of a magnet towards the support, the resources, the money that flows in order to support that particular mission, in order to support that particular calling. And if you find that you have certain mindsets on money around money makes people evil, or money means this, money means that, there can be an energy where you are shifting around, no, money can make a difference. Money can make an impact. This idea can make me a lot of money while also helping the world become a more beautiful place. There can be an energy like that showing up, as well as to see the worthiness in what you do around how it is that you do make the world a better place. Even if you're not leading up a cause around fundraising for the environment or creating some sort of product that is going to be helpful for humanity, it's important to see the values in what you do and how you serve and how you show up and how you make a difference, and to know that you are worthy of being paid for that. Maybe there's an energy where you've had certain mindsets around money where I need to work super hard in order to attract in money, or I need to exhaust my nervous system in order to call in money. And some of you are empowering a different way of seeing money and seeing yourself as a magnet to money. Like some of you could be shifting, and also shifting your own value. If you have a hard time asking for what it is that you desire, asking for what it is that you want, or what it is that you want to get paid, there can be an opportunity with the solar eclipse around the universe, like revealing to you just how worthy you are and how valuable you are, and the good things you do with your money. Like some of you, as I highlighted, you could be fundraising at this time. You could be giving towards people, being able to buy from small businesses that are like-minded and valued. It's tuning into all the good that you do with your finances. And so yes, if you desire more in your experience, you deserve to call that into your experience. So maybe it's a different perspective on this, as well as contemplating the unique qualities that you bring to your job. You know, with the square to Uranus, there is an ask for all of us to own that our weirdness is our genius. You know, the ways that we don't fit in is our brilliance. That adds to your value. Some of you could find like you have to hide your overall sense of self, your own self-expression, in order to make money or to make a living. And there might be something that awakens you or moves through you at this time that makes you recognize that your authenticity makes you even more magnetic as it relates to finances, as it relates to values. And some of you, I have to be forthright, yes, this does indicate gain with North Node, but some of you can deal with some sort of shakeup financially, and it's important to continue to chisel a new perspective around money, around knowing money always comes back. This could be an energy around shaking it up in order to tune into what really matters, that money comes and goes. And some of you can just recognize that you are desiring more fun, more play, more enjoyment within your day-to-day. Some of you can even see, as you're doing some of this money mindset work, that there's parts of what your inner child kind of internalized around money that can be alive here, around seeing your parents fight about money and recognizing how you and your partner do the same thing around finances as well, or how you were a child, you were given gifts rather than your parents having uncomfortable conversations with you, and you replaying the same with your children. Like there can be an element around revisiting your inner child and how they are alive as it relates to your financial reality in some sort of way, or even as it relates to your worthiness altogether. Oftentimes, worthiness is something that's easier to see outside of ourselves. So when you see your friends, you're like, do you know your worth? Like, you are so this, you're so that. But when it comes to ourselves, we don't. And with the energy of solar eclipse in Aquarius, be your own best friend, hype yourself up, and see your worth and your genius and your weirdness with the square to Uranus in the fifth. Fifth house also has to deal with romance. So maybe you've had certain dating situations, certain situationships who made you feel shaky as it relates to your self-worth. Maybe you put up with certain situations for so long that it made you feel like, well, I guess I'm just worthy of this sort of behavior because I'm putting up with it. And there can be an energy around shaking that up and detaching from that, around I am not how I was treated. I am not how that person valued me. With this eclipse aligned with North Node in Pisces, it can be seeing yourself in the way that the universe sees you, with all of your beautiful gifts and attributes. And it can be detaching from that, or even detaching, finding your value in relationships, or even finding your financial security within relationships. If you always saw the future around, my financial future is going to look like this, and I'm going to be married at this age or something like this, it could be shifting into how it is that you are building your own stability. You're building your own security. And in many ways, that supports you in building your own sense of freedom and autonomy with the square to Uranus, and letting go of how you thought it was going to be in order to embrace how it is, and knowing that you are worthy and striving to see the worthiness in who it is that you are and how it is that you were designed, weirdness and all, with the square to Uranus. Some of you could get an idea of some sort of new business that you want to create and start, and it could have roots in something you've always loved to do. Our younger selves knew so much about who it is that we are. And oftentimes, as we continue on in this paradigm, we feel like we need to conform and we need to mask, we need to hide who it is that we are. And oftentimes we can really receive a lot more when we unlearn. It's fascinating how I was so young with my nose in an astrology book, and now I'm doing this. And you might find, when you think about what you were doing when you were really young, you were playing dress up, and there's like a love for fashion that you've been kind of like pushing down, or you could have always liked to play with cameras, and there's like a desire to be on camera that you've been pushing down. You know, sometimes our passions are given to us very purposely by the universe in relation to where it is that we are guided to go to and grow to. And honestly, what could be very profitable for us to go to and grow to, and continuing to tune into the good that you do with your money. You know, when you zoom into the causes that you want to support and the small businesses that you want to support and the impact that you want to have with your finances, you are so magnetic as it relates to money because the universe sees you as a conduit to doing more good out in the world. So it's also important to own making money via your hobby or via something that you enjoy or something that you find pleasurable as well. I see some of you could be raising your prices at this time and struggling with guilt around that. And it's important to know your worth. You deserve to be paid well, even if it is something that you enjoy. And as I highlighted, some of you could feel called around wanting to make money in a different way, wanting to shake up how it is that you treat money, what you spend money on. This would not be the time to impulsively buy a jet ski or something like this with this solar eclipse square Uranus. Some of you could be going through a little bit of restlessness at this time around, I want to have more fun. I want to rebel with my money. It feels like everything is crumbling anyway. Like I want to live my life. I want to enjoy. And listen, live your life, enjoy. But I would say this is not the most supportive time to make very impulsive, erratic decisions with your money, but definitely have some fun, you know, with the square to Uranus. Oftentimes when life feels very monotone and very mundane, that's when we want to shake things up. We want to spend money. We want to rebel. And if we can chisel a sense of fun, creativity, enjoyment as we get to the money, it makes it more sustainable where we don't feel like we have to go on huge shopping sprees in order to feel something after a long week of work, or we don't feel like we have to party or drink a ton in order to make it feel worth it. Owning your Uranus, which can be, you know, creative hobbies and self-expression, just an overall sense of fun while making money can help you not feel like you have to react in these very like impulsive or chaotic ways in order to make it worth it. It's questioning, where have I been led to believe that money means hiding who I am? Money means not being able to have fun. Money means not being able to have hobbies and creative expression. And where is it that I can empower a different perspective, a different mindset? If the Aquarius solar eclipse on February 17th, 2026 lands within the third house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. Some of you may be Sagittarius risings. Some of you may just have 28 degrees Aquarius within the third house. But all of you have an important message to share, not just for you, but for all of humanity. No pressure or anything. I want to highlight that the sign that this solar eclipse is concentrated in is the water bearer. Not because Aquarius is a water sign. It's not. It's an air sign. It resides in the domain of intellect, thoughts, communication. But the reason it is the symbol of the water bearer is that it is meant to represent pouring knowledge to the masses. And you could do so via your voice in some sort of way. Maybe some of you have a podcast you're inclined to share on social media. Maybe some of you are writing a book, or you are learning some particular skill in order to help humanity. And even if you're not going into it around, this is my effort to try to save humanity, there just could be some new chapter that is showing up for you around learning, acquiring knowledge that will be helpful for sharing something significant out into the world. Some of you could have a new beginning as it relates to your sales, as it relates to your marketing, and really wanting to convey, whether it's a business or your art or whatever it is, wanting to convey to people, like very people-oriented marketing, or even unusual marketing in some sort of way. This solar eclipse squares Uranus, which is in your sixth house, which has a lot to do with work and service. So there could be a different way that you're choosing to brand yourself, to market yourself at work. You could even be learning something in order to move in a direction of a job change. Some of you could have some sort of opportunity to learn something or to put yourself out there for something that will drastically change your day-to-day. And I would encourage you, this would be an important time to really make sure that you are taking care of your health. And every element of health, third house brings up themes of the mind, and sixth house, where Uranus is, the planet that's squaring this solar eclipse, is in the territory of the body. So even if you're like Haley Comet, I don't want to be on social media, I don't want to learn a new skill, there can be a focus here around really mind-body awareness, as well as tapping into new things that support your mind and then your body. And so some of you could have certain shifts that transpire around your mental health. Maybe you are talking about things more. Maybe in this process of talking about things, you are freeing up where that stuck or stored energy has been living within your body. Because our body really keeps the record of everything that we have gone through. And sometimes just even within this process of talking about things that could have felt tender, naming dynamics that have not been named, or even acknowledging parts of your story, maybe writing it down helps you to detach and really see what transpired. You know, a lot of you are Sagittarius rising, so there is this effort around wanting to keep it moving, keep going, which oftentimes can be helpful, keeping that rhythm forward. But sometimes there can be a certain element of bypassing around, ooh, that's really something that wants to be named, that wants to be expressed, and that potentially with the square to Uranus in the 6th house has been stored in the body. You know, sometimes if we don't say the uncomfortable things, sometimes we find that we're always having to clear our throat. Like the connection between our soul and the vessel that houses it is very strong. And it's not to say that every single physical ailment that we experience has roots in something that we are going through mentally or spiritually, but some of you can find this need at this time to really prioritize your mental health, recognizing how it's affecting your physical health. And for some of you, social media or even just what it is that you are feeding your brain can be a part of that, around feeling like your algorithms, your feeds, like really recognizing what it is that you are feeding your brain, and even like feeling where you store that tension within your physical body. And even outside of the health dynamics of the 6th house, like even just contemplating, is this how I want to spend my time? Some of you may find that focus is a challenge. You could feel very frazzled and very frayed at this time. Your attention can feel frayed. Your mind can feel frayed in so many different directions. And there might be a need to really step into the power of your minds and even train your brain in order to essentially focus or to do tasks without listening to something in the background. Like you might recognize how short your attention span has gotten, which of course is a humanity theme that we're going through right now. And there's a lot within the current cosmos that signal that, but there could be a personal focus that you have on that. And like I said, some of you do have a message to share, and social media can be a great platform to disseminate that message, but it's just going to be important that you use these platforms and do not let these platforms use you. Some of you could even be shaking up how it is that you go about work, because there are certain platforms that you do not abide by, that you do not agree with in terms of your ideals. That could be a focus at this time. Outside of that, 3rd house also governs extended family members as well as siblings. So there can be something transpiring in that arena as well. Some of you can have some sort of neighbor energy come up, or even community can be 3rd house in terms of your everyday surroundings. But altogether, you know, I'm communicating to a lot of Sagittarius risings. There typically is this desire to expand and look for wisdom out there by way of college campuses and foreign lands. But with the energy of this eclipse, there could be a story that's opening up around finding a lot of knowledge where it is that you are currently, potentially building a friendship group within your immediate environment, potentially befriending a neighbor or something like this. But all in all, this is a time to really honor the ideas that come up within your brain. And I mean that, Sagittarius, really honor the light bulb moments, the ahas, even the questions that you ask yourself as you are going about work or your daily routine as typical. Where is it that you find a problem to solve? Like some of you could invent something or have an idea in order to do so, or just have a unique perspective that you feel called to share. And the reason you're feeling called to share it is because it's bigger than you. And the universe could really have something powerful that it is wanting to convey with you as a conduit. If the Aquarius solar eclipse lands within the 4th house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. You may be a Scorpio ascendant. You may just have 28 degrees Aquarius located within the 4th house. But either way, there is a new story around home, family, and emotional state that is opening for you at this time. This is the opening eclipse. So It's not going to indicate where the entire plot is going, but you may get some hints and clues come to the surface. There may be something unexpected that does come up with family, or that comes up with a spouse or a partner with this solar eclipse's square to Uranus, which is likely within your 7th house. And of course, as we hear that, our mind tends to go to the worst case scenario. But this could be a time around your partner getting a new job and the two of you needing to move, or there can be some sort of property that you put a down payment on. There could be some sort of shakeup. Even if that's just the awareness coming into your brain, like, I don't think I want to live here. Whether that's a city, whether that's a country, whether that's a physical property, there could be a aha moment around a desire for change, one that may come into alignment as this story continues. There also just could be contemplations around what makes you happy and what really would make you happy. Some of you could really be contemplating or even naming your emotions, potentially disrupting a role that you have played within a connection in order to advocate for your emotions or talk about something that has not been talked about in some way. And it's interesting because, as we discussed, Aquarius is a very logical, objective sign, yet the solar eclipse is positioned in your 4th house, which can have to deal with our emotional landscape. So even if it's not coming up in relation to how it is that you interact with others, there can be an energy of really pondering how it is that you feel, or even applying logic in order to make sense of it. You know, a lot of you are Scorpio rising, so you could feel things intensely. And sometimes when you're feeling something intensely, it doesn't make sense. But some of you could be learning different strategies in order to emotionally regulate yourself or make what it is that you're feeling make sense around. Of course, I would be feeling A. I went through B. It can be really helpful to validate yourself in that way around, it makes sense that I'm feeling this way, but let me logically find my steps out of this rather than getting stuck in the storm of swirling emotions that don't make sense to yourself or to others. You know, there is something involved within the solar eclipse around how it is that you relate to others, and maybe how it is that you relate to certain themes that are happening within you. Maybe there's an energy around there's certain connections within your life that you've leaned on a lot, and you recognize, I need to learn how to lean on myself or to make sense, to cope, to regulate what is happening within in order to shake up the roles here if I don't want my partner to feel like a therapist. Or maybe that's vice versa. If you feel like you're shouldering a lot of the emotional heavy lifting within a dynamic, this can be a time of therapy in some regard, or just shifting, or at least the acknowledgement that something needs to change or needs to shift in some particular way. Some of you could find at this time you're really questioning and contemplating what you want out of life. And if that gels with the person that you are building a life with, if you are not currently building a life with someone, there could be a contemplation around how is it that I can make myself happy first, so the right person fits into what it is that I've built already in this life that really lights me up. There can be something that comes up within a marriage, within a partnership around essentially values in some sort of way, or just like where humanity is at. Maybe there's an energy of some disagreements here around potentially you and your partner share different political beliefs, or maybe their family shares different beliefs than you, or something like this. There can be this element around what it means to live in alignment with your own truth and where you want things to go, and either that gelling with the person that you are doing life with, or potentially fracturing an element of who it is that you're doing life with. And some of you could even find, in order to make yourself happy, you are needing to essentially detach from some sort of partnership or even a particular type. I will highlight that you are at the end of a pretty unstable, erratic cycle within partnership and relationship, with Uranus in the final, essentially, degrees of its sign Taurus, which likely is in your 7th house. So there can be an energy around the individuals that you've dated, the partnerships that you've had. It's like really contemplating what really makes me happy. And how is it that, yes, Uranus brought all of these shakeups around connections, but how in the midst of all of that have I learned to really be my own best friend and even like gentle parent myself, walk myself through difficult emotions, through all of it. It's not to say that you cannot rely on your partner, but potentially Uranus could have really shaken your foundations around your ability to do so. And within that, there could have been certain skills that you learned around how to really care and keep for self that you're bringing with you into any partnership moving forward. And even if you are in the same partnership from the beginning of this transit, it started in 2018 to this being the final year of it, 2026, there could be an element where potentially the changes that the two of you have navigated has really made you question things like the foundations, the roots of your life and what it's built upon, with Pluto also in this territory as well. In the year 2026, a lot of you are making career changes. You can check out the All Signs videos that I did to tune into why I say that. And that's definitely going to be relevant with the new nodal cycle. South Node will enter Leo, so will Jupiter. And some of you could let go of what it is that you've been known as up to this point in order to pursue a path that maybe is a little bit more unstable but feels more authentic. And this particular eclipse could be the aha, the awakening of that. There also could be awakenings and ahas around your ancestry, around your home, around your roots, and how that has essentially molded you, and maybe being able to see outside of it. You know, sometimes when we grow up in a certain dynamic, we are kind of normalized to think that that's how everything should be. But Aquarius can be this energy around seeing the higher perspective. So maybe there's an awareness around, okay, just because that's what other people in my family chose does not mean that's what I need to choose. You know, with the square to Uranus, maybe you're disrupting what your family expected for you around partnership or marriage, or who your family expected you to be with in partnership or marriage, or if you're even wanting to be in a partnership or marriage. Maybe this is the time that you're contemplating, is this really what I wanted, or is this felt like what I had to do? Because Aquarius is around really empowering new ways and new essentially operating systems out into the world, and that can be alive as it relates to your home environment. Some of you, as I highlighted, you may move or you may tap into different ways that you are wanting to raise your family, maybe in ways that are a bit unconventional or avant-garde with the square to Uranus. Maybe you are feeling inclined where you're wanting to homeschool, you know, North Node in the fourth house. Some of you are really wanting to dial into your foundations or what is really sacred to you. And this particular eclipse could really bring that to the forefront. If the Aquarius solar eclipse lands within the 5th house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. Some of you may be Libra risings. Some of you may just have 28 degrees Aquarius located within the 5th house. But for all of you, there is a new story that is opening at this time around creative expression, around children, around fun, around your hobbies altogether. Some of you could really feel inclined this particular eclipse and beyond to express yourself in very different ways. You know, Aquarius energy really is the blueprint, in a sense, around when they are just marching the beat of their own drum, just creating the freaky deaky creations that feel right to them. Oftentimes they do set trends. And you at this time and with this nodal story could really be setting trends, especially with some other transits that you're stepping into. You could really notice that you are the blueprint, even if that just shows up around your fashion, your art altogether, your branding. You may see your impact and your influence. And that shows up when somebody is breaking the mold, when they're doing things differently. And that could be a bit frustrating if you do notice that people are copying you a bit. But it's important to know that that is the price that you pay for being someone who has impact and like genuine influence. And it comes from you being fully authentic. Like really, that's the name of the game with 2026's astrology, is to be very authentic. So you can find the more that you are just doing what feels right to you, creating the art that feels right to you, expressing yourself via fashion and style and art in the way that feels right for you, the way that you are really moving the collective. And that could even be a avenue as it relates to your advocacy, as it relates to protesting, as it relates to making some sort of difference, like even weaving that into your art, into your creativity altogether in some sort of way. There can be a focus at this time around taking responsibility over our shared future for your children's sake, like an energy around wanting to help the world because you recognize it's what your generation is leaving to future generations in some sort of way. There can be a focus on that, or even like a darkness around that, just with Pluto in Aquarius. And maybe even that's showing up if you don't have children around. Do I want to have children? Like with the state of the world right now, that could be some sort of fear that is looming at this particular moment. Some of you could absolutely step into having a child, or there could just be a major focus on your children. Or your own inner child. You know, if your inner child was told that you were weird, that you were strange, that it was the most important thing to be pretty and palatable, this could be a time around reclaiming the weird child within you who just wanted to express themselves. This can be a time of kind of reclaiming those parts of yourself back and potentially stepping into a little bit of rebelliousness just overall. Some of you could find that you're wanting to have more fun. You're wanting to enjoy this experience. And your hobbies overall can be going through some sort of shift at this time. Things that you used to find fun are no longer as fun. Even like certain friend groups that you used to really gel with, you no longer align with, or at least during this eclipse, you may get hints around where that may be the case as you step forward. There also can be an element at this time, just with the square to Uranus, which is likely transiting your 8th house. There could just be an energy around wanting to grip this particular season of your life. Like maybe you feel like you lost out on a certain rebellious time of your life, or a more free time of your life, more creative time of your life, to whatever it was. Maybe your children were young, maybe you were in a certain relationship that didn't allow you to be yourself, maybe you were going through certain themes, and there just could be this energy around wanting to seize the now, wanting to have fun, wanting to play, wanting to express yourself all together. And there can be an emphasis at this time around community building with other people who gel with your idea of fun. Like your idea of fun can be changing at this time. Things that you used to find pleasurable and enjoyable, you may not find as pleasurable and enjoyable. But there is an ask at this time, where is it that you can find groups and teams and people where there is some fun to be had. Like this can be rebellious in a time in which so many people and institutions want us to be miserable and hopeless. Like joy can be a revolutionary act. And that could be something you are safeguarding at this time and prioritizing at this time. 5th house also has to deal with romance. It has to deal with dating and passion. And some of you could be really contemplating that. Maybe you are trying new things as it relates to dating, as it relates to intimacy. Maybe there's parts of you who felt like you only had to date a certain gender, or you felt like a certain sort of relationship norm had to be for you. You know, some of you are experimenting a bit in order to figure out what it is that you like, and really stepping out of judgment. Like, yes, where other people could have judged you, but also where it is that you could have felt like you were judging yourself. Like Aquarius energy is around zooming out. So there can be an element around really zooming out and challenging that. As well as some of you may find at this time, you could start dating someone new. This would not be my time to like put a ton of energy into trying to find the one, or feeling like I got to find them during eclipses. Trust me, if someone's like fated to be in your pathway during an eclipse, you will know. They will come into your orbit. It's not something you need to get involved with. This just could open up a cycle where some of you are putting yourself out there. You're open to dating. You are open to even being with certain individuals who are outside of your typical type. Can be an element here. This will not relate to everyone, but 5th house is children. Uranus is in your 8th house, which has to deal with support from others. There can be some sort of disruption as it relates to child support, or even like co-parenting. There can be certain changes in those arenas. But altogether, look out for themes around how your sense of fun is changing and morphing. Look out for themes around how it is that you are owning what it is that you find pleasure in, and how it is that you express yourself, even if it is outside of the norm. If the Aquarius solar eclipse lands within the 6th house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. You may be a Virgo rising. You may just have 28 degrees Aquarius within your 6th house. But either way, there is a new story that is opening up that has a lot to do with your routines. It has a lot to do with your service. It has a lot to do with who it is that you hire, who it is that you employ. It has a lot to do with your small pets. It has a lot to do with your health. Let's get into this. Because you're like, Haley Comet, that's a lot that it has to deal with. Let's tune into where you may see this come to the surface. I firstly see some of you are feeling very restless. Uranus is finishing off its time in your 9th house. Some of you are wanting to explore, you're wanting to travel, you're wanting to overall feel a bit free. And your routines at this time, or your service, or the responsibilities on you could feel like they are quite restrictive. Like you could just want to break out of your responsibilities like it's a sweater that's grown too tight around. I just don't want to do anything. You could even find you're kind of like chiseling a more rebellious energy at work altogether, where a client emails you and asks for this and this, and you're like, I don't want to do that. Or your coworker could ask you for something and you rebel. Like there could be a little bit of a sassy energy. And listen, I'm talking a lot of Virgo risings. You're hard workers. And sometimes this sort of attitude and energy comes after you've been in a season of life around answering all the emails right away and going above and beyond all of the time. You know, sometimes that builds up resentment around constantly going above and beyond and striving to be perfect and doing your work and everybody else's work, that sometimes you just get to a certain era where you're like, I'm tired. I don't want to do that anymore. I want to explore. I want to travel. I want to be able to grow. I want to write a book, you know, Uranus in the 9th house themes. And the day-to-day could feel very suffocating at this time. Uranus energy is very restless. You could just want to rebel. You could want to do things differently. And so some of you could find at this time you do get a different job or a different opportunity clicks into place. And it might be something a little unique. It might be a little unusual. If you do work for yourself, this could be a time that you are really owning your brilliance and your genius and honoring the different ways in which you do your work or you do your thing. You know, a lot of times people will talk about Virgo risings like they're so ritualistic. They do the same thing every single day. And sure, Virgo energy can be associated with routine, but a lot of Virgo risings have Aquarius governing their 6th house. 6th house is day to day. Aquarius is unusual. So a lot of times they do their work in a different way. And I feel like at this time, you're really trying to hone in on your brilliance, the ways that you do what you do. Maybe you're finding if you work freelance or something like this, society typically works between these hours, but you do best when you work during these hours. Some of you could even tune into what feels really authentically you and what does not feel like you, or even just your weirdness, your brilliance. Some of you could be rebelling against the status quo or the boxes you feel like you're being expected to fit. And you're feeling like it's very important to follow your own sense of truth or to follow your own pathway. Like freedom could really be top of mind at this time. Wanting to pursue jobs that give you freedom of lifestyle, or at least just the freedom to decide what you want to do when you want to do it. And that could be an energy around rebelling against, oh, I have a meeting on my calendar. Like that just feels so limiting. What if I don't feel like it? Like there could just be an energy where you're really trying to figure out what your ideal day-to-day is and make decisions that are in alignment with that. And I feel like some of you are taking more risks around letting go of things that make you feel like you have to be a different version of self in order to fit into that mold. And some of you are stepping into work paths that are very unconventional, side hustles that are unconventional in order to really chisel your brilliance. I do want to mention that 6th house has to deal with health. And so some of you could be finding that certain health themes are a focus at this time. And maybe you are chiseling different sort of modalities in order to address certain health concerns with the Aquarius Solar Eclipse squaring Uranus. Maybe you're even looking to higher learning systems, astrology, like medical astrology, you could be getting super into at this time, or you could be studying numerology, some sort of higher wisdom in order to make sense of what is showing up physically for you right now. There can be some sort of theme around small animals, around pets. If you do get a pet around this time, this can be soul family, not a time to force that coming into alignment. But if it happens at this time, there can be a particular soul tie that is alive there. But all in all, there is an emphasis around really wanting to own your day-to-day and own your brilliance, your genius, your wisdom within your day-to-day. You can find that anything that feels really mundane, anything that requires you to be the same way day-to-day or do the same thing day-to-day just doesn't doesn't feel to be a fit. And this can be a time of like light bulb moments around how your energy works, how your body works, what your body responds to, what sort of work you want to be doing, or even certain work or service that can support the collective altogether. Some of you could hire someone, you could employ someone, you could build your team. Like Aquarius is team energy. And you know, when you have a team, when you have something bigger than yourself, sometimes you do kind of have a fire lit under your butt where you feel like you have to work harder because then it's bigger than you. And even if you don't have a team, even if you're not hiring people, like some of you could feel like the work that you're doing is really having an impact on society at large, the collective at large. Some of you could be trying to make sense of your day-to-day in the best way in order to get things done. So some of you could even be contemplating hiring help around the home in some way, or outsourcing, delegating certain tasks in some way in order to make your day-to-day more manageable. And with this being a solar eclipse in Aquarius squaring Uranus, more true to your unique frequency and your unique energy. If the Aquarius solar eclipse lands within the 7th house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. You may be a Leo ascendant. You may have 28 degrees Aquarius located within the 7th house. But either way, you have a massive fated story opening up for you around relationships, partnerships, one-to-one connections altogether. When it comes to the people that you are meeting around this eclipse, or really just around this nodal cycle altogether, there can be certain connections that come into your orbit at this time of those you were meant to go through life with, or to learn from, or to partner with altogether. You know, a lot of people that come into our orbit have a purpose, and not every relationship or partnership's purpose is to walk with us until the end of time. Sometimes relationships show us parts of ourselves. Sometimes it illuminates parts of ourselves to heal. Sometimes it catalyzes certain seasons of our growth. Sometimes it illuminates certain parts of ourselves that we are stepping more fully into. It's just important to know that you can have some really fated people coming into your orbit this year. There also can be certain karmic connections that come into your orbit, or that are returned into your orbit, or just an acknowledgement around any existing partnership and relationship, what you're learning from it, the karma that essentially you are navigating within the connection itself. You know, a lot of times we think of 7th house as just marriage partners and just romantic partners, but some of you could have some soulmate friends coming into your orbit, especially with the solar eclipse in Aquarius, like soul sisters, soul brothers, people that you were like, I was meant to meet you. I was meant to learn from you. We were meant to walk together in this particular season of life. Thank God for that. And this is not a time to force connection. Like the right individuals who are meant to be in your orbit will find you. The universe will make that very, very clear. But it's really important to honor who is coming into your orbit and who is departing your orbit. Because yes, this is a solar eclipse on the North Node, which signals more so around growth and gain as it relates to relationships, partnerships, current as well as future ones that may come into alignment. But sometimes, especially with the opening eclipse, I just have to be honest with you, sometimes if someone is no longer part of your path, your soul is no longer learning from them, the connection has been outlived. Sometimes in order to open up space for the right individuals who come into your orbit to come into your experience, the universe will remove the connections that are no longer meant to be within your world. And your work at this time is to really trust who is coming into alignment and trust who is departing. Because when it comes to eclipses, all that is happening right now is fated, is destined. And to see where it is that you can chisel this Aquarius point of view around, is that so? You know, South Node will enter Leo later on this year. And so there is a need at this time to remain objective, to remain logical around, oh, that's interesting that that person revealed their true colors. Oh, that's interesting that I made this new friend at this particular time. Isn't that something? It's just going to be important to really witness and remain mindful for what is transpiring without feeling like every single event deserves a huge theatric or dramatic expression, or that what transpires around relationships signals something about you. You know, sometimes people tell on themselves or they fumble you because that's who they are. And so maybe the South Node in Leo story is showing up for you early around letting go of, they fumbled me because I'm worthy of fumbling, or they mistreated me because that's the treatment that I'm worthy of. Like sometimes people just tell on themselves, and that's not a you thing. Like maybe there's an element around not binding yourself or identifying yourself as much within relationships in order to step out of it and see it for what it is, or view it objectively or logically. Maybe even some of you have been like decentering romantic connection, romantic relationship. And this could be a time around being open to the idea of it, even if that person does not come into alignment at this time, being open to the idea of it. I'm even seeing, with Aquarius being the sign of the future, some of you could get like flashes of your partner. You could just be living your daily life and then you feel into this potential timeline. Even if it's not now, like you can really feel like someone significant is on the horizon, whether that's romantic, whether that's platonic, whether that's even someone that you are going to go into business with or to build some sort of team or group with. There can be certain flashes of awareness, of insight. And I feel that very strongly for you because Uranus is squaring the solar eclipse, and that is finishing off its time in your 10th house. So there could have been a lot of changes and shifts around your public persona, around your career altogether. And maybe there's some sort of opportunity that comes your way around this time, around building something as a team or with a group, or having even certain clients or people who you interact with within the general public who kind of nudge you on a certain path. And when I say nudge, I don't mean force. You know, a huge part of the solar eclipse squaring Uranus that a lot of us are going to feel very rebellious around. I don't want to do what other people expect me to do, what have you. But there could be certain individuals who give you certain ideas around, hey, have you tried this? Or, hey, do you want to build this with me? And it may be helpful to tune into how that lands for you, because some of you could be shaking things up. You can be partnering with someone in order to build something that's either different to your path or different to society's path, like could help humanity at large altogether. You know, sometimes we come into alignment with individuals who just make us feel inspired to make the world a better place, or just who elicit this strong desire to advocate for some sort of cause or to make a difference in some particular way. And that's really the best sort of relationships and partnerships, is the people who inspire you to be the best version of yourself and to make a difference within the world at large. You know, when we have connection that's very honest and very genuine and very inspiring, a lot of times there's this natural overflow where there is this desire to make the world a more beautiful place because you have this beautiful connection, or you have this beautiful partnership, or even just a partnership with someone who challenges you to think outside of the box, to even see a side of yourself that you were not aware of. You know, sometimes that can be the gift of partnering with someone, is that they can essentially challenge our point of view, our way of seeing ourselves, our way of even envisioning what's possible for ourselves or for humanity. Some of you, if you are in a significant relationship, you are married, there could be some sort of shift that is transpiring here. This does not need to be a negative thing. For some of you, perhaps there is a shift within career because of relationship. Maybe you are quitting your job because of your marriage and you two are moving, like some sort of shift around career and relationship. Maybe you've been wanting to get back into the workforce, and then there's some sort of shift around navigating that within relationship, or you are leaving the workforce in order to prioritize relationship. There can be a focus of that, or at least like an ignition of some sort of change that is desired in these particular arenas. And some of you may be shifting how it is that you interact with people altogether. You as a Leo rising are very warm, you're very generous, you're very heart-centered. And if there's a natural desire where you want to please, where you naturally give a lot of your energy, there can be a shift in how it is that you interact with others, and even how you allow yourself and your energy to be accessible to others at large. You know, the solar eclipse squaring Uranus in the 10th house. If you feel like you've been giving a lot of your energy, especially as it relates to your clientele or something like this, you know it's time for a shift when you start to kind of feel resentful, in a sense, around, oh, I feel like I give so much and my clients just ask for more, or I feel like I have been striving to check all the boxes for my boss and they still are unsatisfied. Sometimes when that resentment builds, it makes it clear where a change is needed. And maybe that's just in even how you deal with others, maybe allowing it to mean something about you, or feeling like you always need to please or always need to pour all of your energy to others. You know, this solar eclipse is on the North Node, which will enter into your 7th house. So there is a focus on relationship and partnership and merged energy with North Node finishing out its time in Pisces. But it's always important to have bounds, especially when there's such a focus on relationship and partnership, because just fully merging and losing ourselves without any sort of dynamic is a surefire way to feel resentful and sometimes even taken for granted. And so knowing that that is a priority now, it's going to be really important for you to tune into where does it feel good for me to show up and where is it not feeling good for me to show up? What dynamics and relationships are making me feel fully free to be myself versus which do I feel like I have to play a role within, as well as what changes can I make in terms of how I relate to others, or the parts of myself that I put out there into the world. Maybe even doing something as a group, as a team is a bit unfamiliar to you. You know, you're a Leo rising. You're here to be the star and you are the star. But you may find that it's a smarter usage of your energy, which is finite, to be partnering up with someone or to even let people help you in some sort of way can be instrumental at this time. If the Aquarius solar eclipse lands within your 8th house, this message is for you. Some of you are Cancer risings, so you're ruled by the moon, which means you are even more influenced by eclipses, or even if you are not lunar ruled, you may just have 28 degrees Aquarius in your 8th house. Either way, there is a major transformative story that is showing up at this particular time. We're being foreshadowed of this story with this eclipse, and it will be the work that awaits as we continue to march through time. And as I mentioned, a lot of you are Cancer rising, so you are more sensitive to lunations, and this is essentially a new moon turned up to 10 and electrified by the square to Uranus, which is most likely in your 11th house. So let's talk about what this means for you. So firstly, there can be certain ahas that you have at this time around your own secrets in some sort of way. You know, there could be a higher perspective to something that you have gone through. Like Aquarius as a sign can be a little bit more detached. It could be a little bit more objective. It could be a little bit more logical. So maybe through the work of some sort of potentially healing modality or some sort of therapy or some sort of psychological self-study or brush into the occult topics of some sort, you could be seeing something differently and not feeling so absorbed with it around it means something horrible about you, like almost just viewing it around, yeah, that's part of my story. And the sky is also blue, like seeing where it is that it can be something where that's just what it is, especially if it's been something that you've had a lot of shame about. You know, 8th house can be what it is that we push into the crevices, into the darkness. And if there have been certain things that you've been suppressing, like with this particular eclipse as well as the other eclipses, there could be something that comes to the surface for the purpose of you finding that alternate perspective of it. Or even for some of you, this will not be for all, even contemplating how this experience, as traumatizing as it could have been for many of you, painful as it could have been for some of you, has given you exactly the catalyst in order to support a particular cause or help people, like have some sort of collective impact with the energy of Aquarius. The darkness of society really benefits from secrets and shame, us pushing things into the shadows and feeling weird and different for the things that we have gone through. But the more that we can essentially bring what's in the shadows out into the forefront, the more that we can step into our purpose around allowing other people to not feel alone and have shame around what it is that they have gone through. Like oftentimes what we push into the shadows grabs more and more of control over us. And you could feel really lit up to want to help other individuals around something very intense that you've gone through. Or even you could be studying more so around psychology or some sort of occult study in order to help humans at large. And that is co-signed by the square to Uranus, most likely in the 11th house, which has a lot to do with groups and people all together as well. There could even be like a friend of yours, a new friend who kind of like triggers or just brings something to surface that you've gone through. Or for some, there can be some sort of grief that you're navigating. And this is not me freaking you out. This is not me saying that you're going to lose anyone. Just some of you could be allowing yourself to feel grief that you've suppressed and haven't fully wanted to feel, maybe even grief of a friend potentially, or a friendship. Like even if the person is still on this planet, like grieving that particular connection and the loss of it. You could also find that you are grieving a vision of humanity, having to let go of what you thought this world was going to be, the world that you believed in order to confront the darkness of how things are now. And it's not being consumed by it or absorbed by it, but potentially finding ways to advocate for the differences that you want to see with the square to Uranus in the 11th house. There also could be a theme around money at this time. 8th house deals with shared resources, joint income. And so there can be some sort of spontaneous, unexpected money that comes your way, potentially even to help you build something for the future, some sort of vision that you have with the square to Uranus in the 11th house. There could be an energy around you are leaning more so on a partner, which could feel uncomfortable or a little unfamiliar in some way. Some of you could be stepping more so into investments, like recognizing what is necessary in order to live out your dreams in some way and kind of calling in the support that helps you get there, or even, again, logically, objectively viewing your psychology around money and how comfortable you feel receiving support from others. Because 8th house also has to deal with intimacy. Intimacy. And so there can be an element around feeling the intimacy around, shared resources, but also like shared stories, shared lives, allowing our shadow sides to be fully seen by another. There just could be a focus on that at this time. Even if grief is not something that is alive within your orbit at this moment, there can be an element around recognizing how finite this experience is. You know, Pluto is likely also moving through his territory. So there can be an element around, if you did lose someone significant, does this energy around what is it that I want to do with this precious life that I've been given? What is the impact I want to make on others with the square to Uranus in the 11th house? What really matters to me? Like when I pass on, what will I be grateful that I contributed or that I prioritized? There can be a focus on that. And really with South Node soon to enter Leo later on this year, releasing any sort of hold around things that really are not valuable to you or things that are very ego-based in some sort of way in order to build a life around what is really important to you from that higher perspective. If the Aquarius solar eclipse lands within your 9th house, this message is for you. You may be a Gemini rising. You may just have 28 degrees Aquarius located within the 9th house. Either way, you are opening the windows of your soul. Is the best way that I could describe this. This is the time that you are open to higher knowledge and broader wisdom. You are really looking for a sense of meaning within your life. Sometimes eclipses have a funny way of kind of walking us through the journey where for it to take us where we are going and where we're meant to go and where we're going to go, it needs to essentially reveal where it is that we are. Where 9th house, where this eclipse lands and the future eclipses will land, has a lot to do with meaning. And sometimes we have like an awakening around the first eclipse around, I don't know what the meaning of my life is, or my life feels meaningless. And sometimes that jostling, even if it is destabilizing and uncomfortable, is important for us to go on this quest to open ourselves up to higher meaning, higher wisdom at that. You know, some of you could be enrolling in school, you could be traveling, you could be learning more about astrology, anything in order to open the windows of your soul, essentially allow breeze in, allow new ideas into your world, allow yourself to open yourself up to this world altogether. Some of you can have a significant mentor come into alignment with you. Some of you are stepping up as a mentor. You are sharing your perspective. You are teaching, you are mentoring others. You are writing a book. You are sharing your unique perspective. And I do mean unique. Some of you are getting over a fear of being judged or being misunderstood. Uranus is most likely finishing up its time in your 12th house, which is around what is hidden. And Uranus is the freaky deaky planet of doing our own thing, march at the beat of our own drum, rebelling. And with it in the 12th house, there could have been an element around feeling like you had to hide your weird or your eccentric or your unusual ideas or even your interests from people around you, around not sharing how into astrology you are or how into history you are. Whatever it is, there could have been an element around, oh, that's weird. I need to like hide that, or who would want to hear about this and that. And it feels to me this eclipse is kind of like opening yourself up around inviting in the idea, where before maybe there was an energy around, oh no, I couldn't possibly step more into this or enroll in this particular program or start teaching this. But you're walking into a journey, especially with Uranus entering Gemini this year as well, where you could be really embracing your uniqueness and embracing your perspective. When we talk about ninth house, we talk a lot about ethics, we talk a lot about politics, we talk a lot about what it is that we believe in. And so some of you could really be more outspoken around those things, or at least around your perspective, and really like sharing your point of view, whether it's on a podium, whether it's in a book, or even you could be in the process of still gathering knowledge, still questioning, what is it that I believe? What are my ethics? And honoring the data if that's different from all of humanity. You know, honoring where it is that it's like, I feel so different because everybody else around me believes in this and I believe in this. Or, you know, other people within my industry, this is their ethics and I don't align with that. You know, your mind is your own. And so this particular transit asks you to go on a journey to find truth, but to own the truth that is yours. You know, you feel truth in the body. You really do. You know, whether it's astrology, numerology, human design, like when you receive a message that's for you, you feel it. Like it just gels. And then there's other messages that are not for you and you let that go. You know, it's an Aries solar eclipse. Sometimes certain things we don't absorb. It just kind of passes through like a gust of wind. You know, it's not for us. But when something is for us, we feel it. And so you could be on a journey to feel and figure out what is truth for you, where your ethics are, where your beliefs are, or even acquiring higher knowledge. There could have been certain things that came into your orbit that felt like truth, that felt like something worthwhile to study, to pursue, to adventure towards. And this could be a time of essentially following that and opening yourself up to other perspectives in order to find what is fully for you. This also could be a time, even if this eclipse does not take you to foreign lands and leather-bound books, this just could be a time where you are viewing things from a higher perspective, like really questioning what is the meaning of my life and how is the meaning of my life the impact that I make on other humans? Like with the Aquarius energy, how is it that I am a beacon of hope for my friends? How is it that I help other individuals within my community? How it is that I want to help humanity at large? Those could be questions that are swirling at this time. And this can be a time of a significant mentor coming in or a professor, but also honoring where your beliefs may differ. You know, we're not the same as everyone else. With the solar eclipse in Aquarius squaring Uranus, this could be a time if you are in school that your professor spouts something that you do not agree with. And maybe this is you debating for your side of things. This also could be a time that you feel more disenchanted with humanity altogether. And there can be an element around wanting to open yourself up to deeper conversations or individuals who are talking about things or debating about things that matter. You're really not inclined for small talk. You're really not inclined for any sort of dynamic that makes you feel like you have to suppress who it is that you are, but really during this eclipse, what it is that you believe or how it is that you think. You know, you are a Gemini rising. You have some amazing thoughts to share with the world. And if there's been any energy around feeling different, feeling weird for the way that you see things, the things that you believe in, this eclipse could really break open this desire to be more outspoken about your truth. If the Aquarius solar eclipse lands within the 10th house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. You may be a Taurus rising. You may just have 28 degrees Aquarius within the 10th house. But either way, there is a major story that is opening up for you around career, around public persona, around reputation. Buckle up. And I do feel like this can be very positive for many of you, even if parts of it feel very uncomfortable. Some of you can have a drastic career change, either this eclipse or with this upcoming nodal cycle. You can literally feel like you quantum leaped from one particular timeline, one particular career path to something totally different, especially with Uranus finishing up its time in your first house. Some of you have been craving change. You feel like your career path belongs to a prior version of self. You feel restricted. You feel like you're not able to be your full self. You don't feel like they fully see you or fully value you. And this eclipse could click things into place in order to get you into alignment with where it is that you are meant to go. But I do need to be completely forthright with you and say that particularly around the opening eclipse, the first eclipse that we have in a nodal cycle, sometimes there is an element around what is outdated or what you have outlived needs to fall away for what is truly meant for you to click into place. So if something transpires around an eclipse where a job that you thought you were going to get falls through, or something transpires with the boss, it's going to be important during this eclipse to really trust the goings on right now and trust that there is a bigger story that is showing up at this particular moment in time, which is all easy to believe when everything's clicking into place, but it's much harder when the wrong things need to fall apart for the right things to click into place. But if it happens around an eclipse, it's part of a bigger story. It's destined. It's fated. I remember I got let go on an eclipse and I was truly sobbing on the Zoom. It was quite embarrassing, but I remember even through my tears thinking, oh, I'm getting fired in an eclipse. This means I'm being set up for a different path. And the path led me to where it is that I am now, which is the more aligned path because it is my path. You know, the energy of the Aquarius solar eclipse square Uranus, we don't want anything that is not fully true to self. So even if there is a career opportunity that you're like, that would be perfect, you have to trust if it passes you by at this time, it was not for you. It was not designed for you. You want things that are fully designed for you. And furthermore, that you were designed for by the universe. And so it's important to trust what is transpiring here. If you work for yourself, this could be a time of really owning your genius, your brilliance. You could have a really out of left field marketing idea or brand yourself in a drastically different way and be a bit of the blueprint at large. Like you could really have reverberations through your industry around the different ways that you are going, the different trends that you are setting at this time. And it comes from being fully authentic. It comes from even being a little rebellious. If there's any energy around, oh, well, we always have to do things this way, there could be an energy at this time around, no, the hell we don't. We can do things differently. And you may even find, as it relates to your career, there is this strong urge at this time to want to advocate for people, to want to advocate for humanity, to want to advocate for where change is necessary. You can find if you are at a career or in an industry where it feels very corrupt, where it feels very jaded, where it's actively harming people more so than helping them. That could have been sustainable for some time. You know, we all need to make money somehow, but particularly now it could be grating on your soul, like the misalignment around who it is that you are versus what it is that you do in the outer world. You could really feel that misalignment and it might feel really grating. And so much so that you could feel inspired around this eclipse to want to quit or want to rebel at the workplace in some particular way or advocate for yourself around a boss. And it would not be my encouragement. It's not a Haley Comet cosign to spontaneously, quit your job or spontaneously rebel or cause a scene or something like this. Again, what's meant to transpire during an eclipse will. I'm not saying you have to force change. I just feel like a lot of you are going to recognize change is necessary at this time. And even if you feel like, I've got to quit my job, unless you are eclipsed, which is the energy where you have to quit your job. There's no other option for you. You just recognize I'm at the end of the rope. This is what I need to do. I typically advise, see how you feel after the eclipse. Sometimes in eclipse brain, we're like, I have to quit my job. I have to do it right now. But then in a couple of months' time, we recognize, oh no, I just needed to switch departments, or oh no, I just needed some time and space to launch my own business, or whatever it is. Sometimes, especially with this eclipse squaring Uranus, it's not best to react very impulsively or spontaneously, especially when eclipses and February 2026's astrology altogether is very chaotic. And so we're not seeing so clearly. And so some of you could really feel inclined to rebel. You've been working very hard. Some of you are feeling the effects of your work on your body, like feeling nervous, feeling jittery, feeling anxious, even feeling like it's hard to sleep, like Uranus energy is electric, right? It's in your first house. Some of you could have even felt like any sort of visibility, any sort of public persona that you've been chiseling while you've been building towards it as the hardworking Taurus rising that you are. There could be an energy around really recognizing what it's doing to your physical vessel. And maybe that is prompting where change is needed. Some of you could get an out of nowhere idea to start your own business. Some of you could want to rebel against a boss, especially if they're telling you what to do or how to be. Some of you could feel a misalignment around your workplace and the ways that you are wanting to show up and the sides of yourself that you are wanting to display. You could even feel judged in some sort of way for your tattoos, for your sense of style, for your perspective at large. You could feel like you're kind of under a microscope. 10th house is very public. So whatever your eclipse story is, it could feel like it's showing up on a very public stage. Even if it's not within your career, it could also be showing up in terms of your reputation at large. There can be something that you are inspired to advocate for and that you are being seen for. And with Pluto in your 10th house as well, most likely, some people could be having a more intense or extreme reaction to certain things that you're posting, certain things that you're putting out there. You could be generating very strong, extreme responses from other individuals. And what does it mean for you to be fully yourself and fully in alignment with your own truth and your own authenticity, even if people are judging, even if people are hating? Where is it that you can let them hate, so to speak? And even if you are not within the workforce altogether, there could be a desire to step into some sort of altruistic project, recognizing where it's needed, where change is needed, and where you may be thrust into a leadership position in order to make this change happen, not just for you, but for humanity altogether. If the Aquarius solar eclipse lands within the 11th house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. You may be an Aries rising. You may just have 28 degrees Aquarius located within the 11th house. But either way, this eclipse is foreshadowing a story that will show up for the next couple of years or so around your friendships, around your community, around your groups and your network altogether. This eclipse could really break open this desire to feel connected to people who are on your wavelength or who get you. You could be really craving community, social circles, maybe even individuals who have similar values to you with the square to Uranus in the second house. Maybe there's been some sort of shift or rupture around existing friendship groups because of different values, or maybe even just different financial realities with the square to Uranus in the second house. And with this solar eclipse, there's really a desire around who is it that I am connected to? You could be really craving friendship or desiring friendship. Soul friends can click into alignment at this particular time, meeting people that you were meant to meet. North Node always brings in this element of fate and destiny and divinity. So it could be an element around right place, right time to connect with this particular soul or with these particular people. And sometimes we find the groups, the team, the collective. Sometimes we create the groups, the team, the collective. There can be an element with the solar eclipse around build it and they will come, around building essentially a group of individuals who are like-minded, like-hearted, like-souled, who share similar values. I'm also seeing for some of you that build it and they will come is showing up as it relates to your audience, your community. Some of you could start building an online community or assembling some sort of audience or really accumulating influence at this time. And Aquarius is an interesting energy because oftentimes Aquarians go through life feeling very different than other individuals. And a lot of times Aquarians, when they step into leadership roles, it's like they call in fellow individuals who felt weird, who felt different, who felt ostracized, who felt like outcasts, who felt like loners. So you also could be alchemizing certain experiences that you've gone through within social groups and feeling like a scapegoat, feeling outcasted, feeling misunderstood, and be alchemizing that into fuel in order to call in individuals who are on your wavelength, who understand, who are similar to you or what it is that you've gone through. And the gift of that is that you're able to speak and share in a way around, I know, I get it, I've been there. Make sure to check out the All Signs 2026 readings because it gives more insight into all of the energies that are showing up this year. But for you, especially if you're an Aries rising, it's important to know that Chiron is wrapping up its time in your sign. And Chiron is the wounded healer. And so it represents pain that we go through, wounds that we have, but with the Chiron energy, healing ability that we have because of that. And so some of you could even be some sort of influencer, share some sort of perspective because of certain things that you've overcame. I get it. I've been there. And here are the codes. Like, here is the way to get out of it, or something like this can be relevant here. I will also say you could just be contemplating your place within the world altogether, where your social networks are, where your social circles are. And it's not me saying it's like musical chairs, right? And if we don't find our group, we're there without a seat to sit in. Like, you are an Aries rising, you're here to be fully and fiercely yourself. I'm just saying at this time, you can really find your soul community. So it's important to be open to it and to not feel like you need to be so independent that you signal to the universe around, I don't need friends, because sometimes the universe takes us very literally. And so like really allowing yourself to be open to the idea of connection and individuals who can help you build your visions and your dreams. Like, you can find at this time, you can be more inclined to network, to build your audience, to build your influence, to widen your essentially social impact, and not for superficial means, not for a popularity contest. It really feels like an energy around understanding how influence, when chiseled with ethics and attunement to your own values with the square to Uranus, can be a powerful tool for social change, really, with the energy of Aquarius. Like, some of you could be mobilizing groups of people in order to protest, in order to make some sort of difference, in order to volunteer. 11th house is very much humanitarian oriented. And so it's not just wanting to be liked. It's like really understanding the power of we. And so some of you are on this journey around wanting to find the we, either finding a group or building it yourself, Talking to Aries risings, a lot of you could feel inspired to build it yourself. And some of you could find at this time that you are campaigning, you are networking, you are advocating for a particular cause. Some of you could run for office in some sort of way. Some of you, in order to level up within career, you could be really seeking to grow your word of mouth or to grow your network altogether, to grow your influence and your impact altogether. It's important to note that 11th house is right by the 10th house purposefully. This is the territory of, yes, people and community, but a lot of times people in community can help us reach our career ambitions. So there also could be an energy around connecting to certain social groups and investing energy in social events altogether for the purpose of leveling up your status out in the world. And it doesn't feel self-serving. It genuinely just feels like understanding that leadership, influence, impact, these are all ways to amplify your values and amplify the change that you want to see for humanity altogether. I will highlight that while new friends can be clicking into alignment at this time, sometimes eclipses, especially the opening eclipse, which this one is, does open up the space for new friends by taking away friends that are no longer necessary in the next part of our journey. That came out a little harsher than I meant, but it's true when they say that friends are for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And we don't have to deem relationships as a failure if they do come to a close. Like, sometimes you move away from friends. Sometimes your visions for the future just take you in different directions. Like, it's not to say it's a failure if you and a friend do create some distance. It's simply, especially at this time, for the right people, the soul people, to click into alignment. And 11th house is also our visions for the future, individually as well as collectively. So yes, there can be an energy around advocating, protesting for the visions of the future that you want to see, but also for your own future, what it is that you want, what it is that you dream of. You could be really stepping into the driver's seat around making that happen, or recognize how the universe is pulling you to make that happen. And that's a responsibility to make your dreams a reality, one that a lot of you are wearing this year with Saturn and Neptune in your sign. If the Aquarius solar eclipse lands within the 12th house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. You may be a Pisces ascendant. You may just have 28 degrees Aquarius located within the 12th house. But either way, this story has a lot to deal with your subconscious. It has a lot to do with secrecy. It has a lot to do with spirituality. So let's get into it. I firstly want to say that yes, Aquarius is around friends and community, and it is important to have those people that you can lean on and build with. I will just mention that particularly when this eclipse exacts, you can be feeling very overwhelmed by other people's energy. And you could feel it even if you're in your own solitude. 12th house is the collective subconscious. And with the energy of Aquarius, you could be really feeling what humanity is going through, and it can be really weighing on you. My encouragement at this time would really be to be on your energetic protection and your energetic discernment, even around where you are wanting to interact out in the world and where it is that you're wanting to come into your own energy, as well as even if you're in your own solitude, how it is that you cloak and shield and protect your aura and your energy altogether, because you can feel very heavied by what humanity is going through. Rightfully so. It's not me saying here to be like la 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 and just be detached from humanity and the suffering that other humans are going through, but it's just going to be important to know that even when we are alone in our own space, especially with you having Aquarius in the 12th house, we feel it. And so it's just honoring that in order to truly allow your rest or your downtime to be really nourishing so that you can show up for humanity, for the changes that we are moving through. Some of you can have certain visions around where humanity is going and where it is that you are meant to be a mouthpiece for where humanity is going, with this eclipse squaring Uranus within the 3rd house. While you're in meditation, you could just get random flashes of things that are important for you to communicate. You are a cosmic channel. You are a cosmic conduit. And in deep meditation or in deep stillness, you can kind of gain awareness of certain things that are important for you to express or to share, not just for yourself, but for all of humanity. There could also be very prophetic dreams that you have around this eclipse, or even that might be an ability that you step into throughout the course of this eclipse cycle, is having certain dreams that come to pass, or even for some of you, having certain messages within your dreams can be very relevant here. With the energy of 12th house, even outside of dreams, this is our intuition, but it's important to know that it's murky. It's a very mysterious house because it's behind the 1st house. So we're not always aware where the messages come from or even where the ideas come from. My encouragement would be to trust what is coming through, because it can have a why that's bigger than you with the Aquarius energy. And if you do have a tendency to numb your intuition or to doubt yourself, this particular eclipse story could be you really starting to trust it, maybe even starting to write down certain visions that flash in before they happen, or dreams that you have, or even saying to a friend, oh, I keep seeing this number, or this keeps happening. Sometimes the more that you voice it and see the data of it, Aquarius being a very logical sign, the more that you see those data points and how they verify your own psychic ability, your intuitive ability, and how you continue to chisel that tool moving forward. Sometimes we need that kind of verifiable proof by writing it down around how weird that I had this dream and this happened, or how weird that I mentioned to you that this happened and then we saw this. Like, sometimes observing the data, the objective reality of it, helps you to start to trust it, because 12th house is the house of self-undoing, self-sabotaging. So some of you may gain awareness around where it is that you've been self-sabotaging, where it is that you've been self-sabotaging by not speaking up, where it is even self-sabotaging about speaking up. There's something around voice with Uranus and Taurus in the 3rd house. Some of you could even have certain themes around your escapism, certain things that you have utilized in order to turn your mind off or turn your thoughts off. Aquarius in the 12th house, a lot could be happening in here, and there can be a tendency at times to reach for things that help you numb the thoughts. I would encourage you not to do that at this particular time, to find ways to be more mindful, to meditate, to sit in stillness, to really hone your focus, do one thing at a time, to understand what a powerful tool your mind is, and to really strive to chisel it like the tool that it is. And also where it is that you've escaped or numbed as a form of self-sabotage. There is a theme around the mind that's coming up right now. And when you don't really own that you're psychic and that your mind is a transmitter for messages all of the time and not everything is yours, like sometimes you're picking up on thought forms that are not yours or energy that's not yours, a lot of times you feel very wacky. You feel very chaotic or very all over the place. And so I feel like protection is very helpful around just like honoring my energy is mine, yours is yours, like cloaking and shielding your energy, as well as really striving to develop strategies to exercise mindfulness. Some of you, meditation can be very key here because that can help you sort out what's mine versus what's not mine. Because especially if you're a Pisces rising, you absorb a lot and not all of it is yours, and it was never meant to be carried by you. And so meditation might be really helpful to tune in what's mine, what's not, rather than reaching for things that numb your thoughts, just take it all away. Or even if you find yourself leaning on media, if you always need a podcast playing or things like this, there can just be an awareness around how that can be numbing rather than really tuning into what is happening in here. And so, I love podcasts. I always have something playing. I'm not saying you always have to be in silence, but it's more so observing when you do things in order to numb and escape versus where you do things in order to learn, in order to deepen. And some of you could be stepping into some sort of meditation journey in order to chisel more discernment as it relates to your mind, as it relates to your focus even here. And 12th house is the house of solitude. So some of you could just be contemplating that you do feel alone, that you do feel different. You look at other humans and you feel like your mind's different. You feel like your opinions are different or something like this. But I see that for some of you, you are contemplating that you were meant to be different in order to empower new ways of being. So it's owning your genius and your weirdness rather than seeing it as a detriment can also be important here, as 12th house can be what it is that we hide. So if you feel like you've had to hide your weirdness, your strangeness, I need to be forthright that 12th house is secluded of an energy. So some of you may be very inclined with where you are giving other people access to you and don't feel like you have to give people your energy just because they ask for it. Like definitely exercise the boundaried energy of a Saturn ruled lunation to honor your yeses and your nos as it relates to your own energy. And like I said, even if we're not physically somewhere, sometimes mentally we're picking up on thought forms, sometimes spiritually we're experiencing interference. So there's an energy around really being boundaried and viewing things objectively, logically, writing things down. It can help us not feel so crazy around why do I keep being pulled to this? Like when we exercise discernment or when we note data points around how strange, I was just plagued with thoughts of this person. They reached out right after. Like it helps you tune into, oh, I'm picking up on something. And once you validate that and see the objective logic of that, it helps you feel less all over the place, less dramatic, less crazy, things like this, observing this kind of Aquarius detached, logical, objective perspective. And also what's going to be instrumental moving forward is also recognizing where it is that you feel like you always need to be of service or always doing, and chiseling more mindfulness, potentially chiseling more solitude, more inner space, more healing as well. Some of you could be really detaching from certain escapist tendencies or habits. You could be kind of coming inward in order to heal. Some of you could be going to rehab, or you can go on some sort of retreat, something in order to gain higher perspective of what it is you're moving through. Change is going to come. And that has never been more of a certainty with this upcoming Aquarius solar eclipse squaring Uranus. And it's going to be important as we step into the new future that we are all co-creating, as we step into the new timelines that are alive within our world, that we continue to look to our own North Star, look towards the future with hope and optimism in order to inspire your fellow humans, in order to create novel results. Because oftentimes when we plug into these themes around change and disruption, our mind can go to the worst case scenario. But let's all hold the vision around change being beneficial, change being needed within our lives and within humanity altogether. So I'd love to know below, what are you looking forward to about the solar eclipse and this nodal axis altogether? What are you not looking forward to as much? It's going to be so important at this time to keep our feet on the ground, to stabilize what transpires, but to keep our eyes wide open, as some of the hints and the clues that are coming into our orbit in February 2026 are going to reverberate out in significance. So thank you so much for joining me for this video. My Instagram handle is at Haley Comet Astrology. My TikTok is the same. I would so love to connect with you over there. I also have some other all signs videos coming up on my channel, so look out for that. Saturn conjunction Neptune in Aries through all of the signs is dropping next Friday Friday, and then the Virgo lunar eclipse is dropping the Friday after, so make sure to check that out, as well as subscribe. If you are not a subscriber, I do all sorts of all signs videos on the major transits that we are navigating, as well as a weekly astrology podcast on the changing sky week to week and how it is that we can make it magical by co-creating with the cosmos, by aligning with the astrology for more flow and more magic within our world. So make sure to check that out and subscribe if you feel so inclined. Also, liking, sharing this video with a friend really means a lot as well. But until we meet again, stay cosmic.